If you watch the previous two videos in this series, you can hear Dan's soul leaving his body at certain points, particularly with what we're going to refer to going forward as the Eat It debacle. But I want to reassure Dan, with this album, we're like leaving prehistory now. Starting with Dare to Be Stupid, we'll start getting into tracks which I have great blinding nostalgia for. This is the earliest Weird Al album that contains tracks that I grew up with.
You are leaving prehistory.
Well, guys, we're here not to talk about those old and busted albums, but the new hotness. The year is 1985, and we just went to the record store and bought Dare to Be Stupid. We're here for some hastily made history about Dare to Be Stupid. The album came out in June 18th, 1985. Given that this album was released then, it took a little more time to record and put out than Weird Al in 3D. I would say this album had, 16 months versus a year? Recorded once again at the Santa Monica Sound Studios in the early months of 1985. Didn't chart as high as Weird Al in 3D, but it was still gold record and eventually platinum, and this album was nominated for a Grammy Award in 1986, which unfortunately lost to Whoopi Goldberg. And this reminds me of a fact that I forgot to talk about in Weird Al in 3D, has a Grammy Award-winning song on it. Eat It won the Grammy for Comedy Album/Single in 1985. This album was nominated for 86, but did not win. And I think it's interesting that category is usually full of like stand-up comedy and things like that. Anyway, personnel. We've got Weird Al, of course, back doing his usual bit, plus some theremin.
There's theremin on this album?
There is theremin on this album.
I'll give you a guess on which song has theremin on it. It's fairly self-evident.
Jim West, Steve J, and John Bermuda Schwartz return. So does Rick Derringer to produce and play a little bit of guitar. Unfortunately, musical Mike Kiefer returns for a little bit of hand percussion. Warren Luring, Joel Peskin, and Pat Regan return on trumpets, clarinet, and keys for the Polkas. And Jimmy Zavala returns on sax. Now it's time for new personnel. Gary Herbig on sax and clarinet. The Water Sisters. This is their first appearance on backing vocals, and they'll be on pretty much every Al album going forward. Got Sonny Burke on piano. We've got Al Viola on banjo. Jazz guitarist played mandolin on The Godfather.
Wait, there are two Al's on this album?
We have double the Al and double the fun. Next, we have Chris, the Glove Taylor, on record scratches.
I'm sorry. I couldn't.
You laugh, but Chris is a famous LA area DJ. He appeared in the movie Breakin' and its sequel, Breakin' 2 Electric Boogaloo. He's probably the most famous for producing Dr. Dre's albums, which parlayed into many other rappers and hip-hop artists. This guy is a big wheel at the hip-hop factory. And last but not least, for new personnel is Tommy Johnson on tuba. You may know Tommy as the guy who played tuba on Jaws. That's right, he is Jaws. He's an extremely famous tubist. He's appeared in many film arrangements. He's been in The Lion King, Titanic, the Star Trek movies. Tony Papa is the engineer, except George Tutko engineers This Is the Life. And fun fact, it was mixed and mastered digitally on a Mitsubishi X80 digital tape recorder, and this has the distinction of being the first comedy album released on compact disc.
Is that the hot new music format everybody's talking about?
It is.
They're so shiny.
It just doesn't have that low fidelity feel that the hipsters are into these days.
And of course, on album art, we've got Donald Lane, the agency, returning back for art direction with a new photographer and illustrator in Dennis Keeley and Lou Beach. Dennis Keeley's done photography for Neil Young, Johnny Paycheck, Hank Williams Jr., and Dr. Demento. And Beach worked on several albums and singles for illustration, including Madonna. It seems interesting that this is the point in Al's career where he can get all of these talented musicians and artists and people who worked on the stuff that he's parodying to do stuff for him.
In just a couple of years, too.
You know what, Dan? I think this might be the worst album art, not just in Weird Al's collection, ever. I hate this album art so much.
Oh, so you put this in F tier album art?
I would have to invent a lower than F tier for this.
Is it the fisheye lens?
I was gonna pop a Homestar joke, and now I can't.
You were gonna fade me. I friggin' knew it.
Yeah, no, I look at this album art, and the only thing my brain is like, just don't look up his nostrils. Don't look up his nostrils. Come on.
He's got the mustache guard right there to stop you from doing it. He is literally, that face is nothing but, I dare you. I dare you, man. Get stupid with me.
Yes,
I like this album art.
I dare you to buy this album and be stupid. What's the theme here? We've got toothbrushes and toasters and chairs.
It's collage-ish.
Mixed media is the preferred term, I think.
Nah, I find it charming.
I can take it or leave it. It doesn't grab me like the past two albums had.
Going into Dare to Be Stupid, the songs to beat are Eat It and I Lost on Jeopardy, but the S tier is still a vacant wasteland of nothingness. Will tonight be the night we populate the S tier? I have high hopes.
Like a surgeon, hey, cutting for the very first time.
The more I dig into the layers of the production of this song, the more I come to appreciate it. Think this is the 80s. Remember, everybody thinks, oh, the 80s. It's synthesizers everywhere. And that's true. But what we tend to associate with 80s sound is two kinds of synthesizer. We got analog synth and we've got digital synth. And this album came out right at the time we were starting to break from analog to digital synth.
Mm-hmm.
And in this particular song, Pat Regan is using a Roland Jupiter 8 along with a Roland sequencer to produce that sound. And that is a very different synthesizer than the Sequential Circuits Prophet 5, which was used in the original Like a Virgin. But when I listen to this and I hear the bump, 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 this has a crunch that I tend to associate more with a Yamaha type of sound. And I just love the crunch. It's like I hear this, I'm like, yeah, I'm crunching, baby. And it's great. And it's like they found some other layer to this song that I just, oh, and also I happen to like the way they did the ba-da-lee dot dee dot. That is actually, I prefer it here than in Madonna's version. That said, this song falls down in one critical place. It's the drum production. It's terrible. It's bad.
Dan, I do just need to point out that I'm not necessarily a big fan of Madonna in that I have never listened to, I can't think a single song of theirs in its entirety. And the only fact that I know them from is derailing Guy Ritchie's career. Yeah. So I could care less. This song is just kind of meh. Al's kind of like doing a weird voice. I don't know if it's him trying to do a Madonna impression or if this song is just outside of his comfortable register. So it's again that kind of doing a bit for an opening that I find is shaky to open an album on.
There are worse bits than this album.
There are worse bits.
He's doing his best virgin voice.
Yeah.
Buttface. Good incorporation of heart rate monitor in this song. Like, that's a really easy thing to overdo. Also, I noted, just listening to it just now, was that the return of accordion valve as the ventilator?
Yes.
See, I had in my notes, I wrote down Mr. Frump-esque usage of the breathers and sounds.
You know what? I'm with Buttface in that I'm not the world's biggest Madonna fan. Like, she's listenable, but I was never a big fan. But this song is a solid anywhere in B tier.
Yeah, I have it as B, as it's passable. It's fine. It's fine.
I also think historically, like, this song is the first one where an artist actually came to Al and said, hey, can you do one of my songs? The movie wasn't exactly lying that Madonna really wanted him to do this song. It's a pivotal moment in his career, but I agree that it's not as good of a start to an album as Eat It, even though as anchor parodies go, I had A tier, but I have a feeling that this is going to wind up in the high Bs.
Come on and dare to be stupid. It's so easy to do. We're all waiting for you. Let's go.
I think the headline of this song is that it is more Devo than Devo.
Yeah, this song belongs as part of Devo's discography.
I don't know how much of a gag it is, but there's a bit in the Weird Al Behind the Music where they interview Mark Mothersbaugh, and he's just like, he nailed it. He got it right. And frankly, I hate him for it. It's like, I don't know how he did it, but he did it. And the lyrics Everything about this song, what can you say about it? This is one of Weird Al's finest works that he's ever done in his life.
For some reason, the weird voice works for me. That's been a deal breaker for, opening tracks in my mind of like, you're doing something that's outside of the norm here, but I kind of think that's the point for this song. This is probably his best style parody up to now, right?
Yeah, maybe one of his best ever.
Forgetting to leave a tip after you eat a bunch of sushi doesn't make you stupid, Al. It makes you an asshole. Now, I'm going to explain to you why I'm putting this song in D tier.
What?
No!
And then you're both going to yell at me.
Okay, let's buckle up.
D tier song because the lyrics are way too stupid.
They're supposed to be stupid.
Yeah,
they're
like,
I get
to
that's
be
the
stupid.
point.
They're idioms. They're a bunch of well-known idioms, but all the lyrics are the on the other hand versions of
I
those idioms.
understand.
Which
Let
is
your
a great.
babies grow up to be cowboys.
And none of that makes the song funny. It just makes the song stupid. And I don't find stupid things funny. And I'm not a fan of Devo. And that's it. That's the only two components to a song.
I can't follow you down the road of putting this lower than like A.
I mean, I had this as S tier.
Yeah, I also have this as S tier.
Yeah,
What?
This,
What?
Now,
What?
there is a version of this song that I like. As far as I know, Al only plays it live, but there are recordings you can find on YouTube where he does like an unplugged lounge singer version of this song. That's much more pleasant to listen to. But yeah, if you don't like Devo and you don't like stupid lyrics, what else is there to enjoy in this song?
I've got you with dragging my car around as like a C. How are you putting this lower than
It's
that?
a D because I skip it every time I play the album.
Woof. Woof, man, woof.
So S plus A plus D equals a B
No,
tier.
S plus D. 2 S's here.
That still averages out to a B.
it's like sinking the boat, man. It's like, it's
Alrighty.
Dan, do we have a new
this-
debacle on our hands?
I think we have.
You know what, Dan? I'm gonna square this round hole. Okay, he's allowed to have a stupid opinion.
I mean, he is Ricky, and he dares to be stupid.
I want a new duck, not a swan or a goose. Just a drake, I can dress real cute. Think I'm going-
So I have an unabashed love for Huey Lewis and the News. And they deserved better than this song, and Al is better than this song. This is like the minorest of nits to pick, but the bass on this is just wrong. It's just wrong. I don't know if it's the drum machine. I don't know if it's the bass. I don't know if in the original there's a slight syncopation or just kind of like drag to it, but it is flat. It does not have the bop of I Want a New Drug. Al does not need to have a pun of how to get down and then look at the camera directly and go, do you get it? I'm being funny. This is the joke.
You were happy with the old duck, it sounds like.
I love this song. I love it so much, and I cannot in good conscience give it anything higher than a C because it just trips and falls all over itself.
You know why I put it in C tier, Buttface? Listening to a parody song, we've established the music's important, the lyrics are important. But like, the concept of a parody is important. And people don't keep ducks as pets, so
But you're wrong. Believe it or not. I have a friend of mine in Chicago, his next door neighbor has ducks for pets, and they're absolute jerks.
okay, yeah, and then there's that one guy from Netflix who had a tiger. That you get. The lyrics are clever. I actually really like the get down, get it gag. Like, yeah, I get it.
I don't like the get it. Because he does a better one later with doesn't smell too foul. And he doesn't feel the need to put a get it in there.
He should have, though.
No, he shouldn't have.
Dan,
Like, well,
you neglected to tell us who's playing the duck calls on this album.
the duck calls are sampled.
I would have suspected that it was Hand Fart Man.
Well, no, his hands are both farting. He can't hold the duck call.
So, I mean, my notes on this gives a new meaning to quacky sound, because you can get a quacky sound out of a guitar. I think my takeaway from this is on like, yup, it's a new drug parody. It's not as good as Ray Parker Jr.'s though.
Oh, yeah. You know what? Sure, we can go there if you want to.
Even though Buttface is that Huey Lewis guy, I mean, I listened to this really closely and I see what he's saying about the bass, but overall the vibe of the song is extremely, extremely close. Like a person listening to this will hear it and go, "Oh yeah, that's a new drug." They understand it. A normal
It doesn't have
Then half the song is quacking.
It doesn't have the same bounce. Like you can
You're
just
correct.
hear it. It feels very mechanical, and I don't like it.
It doesn't have the same bounce, but my grade was like C lyrics, C music. It's not imaginative. It just feels like this is one of those things where, I mean, Huey Lewis signed off on this.
Well, to be fair, I think a lot of these artists sign off without knowing what the parody's going to be about.
Sounds like we're C's across the board then.
I'd rather clean all the bathrooms in Grand Central Station with my tongue than spend one more minute with you.
I like to think that all of Al's bad relationship songs are actually describing like some finite number of actual relationships. For example, this song, clearly the brokenhearted man from You Don't Love Me Anymore after the other shoe has dropped, right? Yeah, for me, a little doo-wop goes a long way.
Mm-hmm.
And that's really all I have to say about this song. I've got this in C tier. It's fine, and I love the lyrics, but not my style of music.
Al wrote this about an ex-girlfriend, apparently. Like, legitimately.
So, yeah, no, I really, really like this song. Like, this is, I think, the longest Al has gone up to this point playing it straight. Like, it's 50 seconds until we get that and burn down the malt shop. And you're like, oh, what's going on here? Like, that's a new record for Al, right? 50 seconds of, like, keeping the lid on.
Yeah, I wrote the ending escalation. Thumbs up.
Yeah, no, I love a good song that builds an escalation. This is humor that is playing on a particular theme and really works. It gets stupid, but stupid in a good way. And it's just a good doo-wop song. Like, I really like doo-wop. It's fantastic. This is also like the first original on the album. So like this is where he's showing, okay, I can be more than just parodies. And I think that's a really good showing for him.
Stupid's an original.
Differentiating style parody.
I mean, this is also a style parody of doo-wops.
Yeah, but not necessarily a single band. No one else sounds like Devo except Dare to Be Stupid.
Oh, we're not going to get in a Devo argument tonight.
We're not. Oh, fair enough. The only other thing I have to say is like One More Minute is a song that I had not heard before revisiting this album. Like it's coming to me fresh for an appreciation of it. And I'm putting it on a shelf up there next to This One's Not About You, which is a favorite Joko song of mine.
I put this as a low B.
I enjoy this enough to have it as an A.
That's going to average out to a B.
Low B.
Low B.
I've been around, but I ain't never seen a guy who looks like a Muppet, but he's wrinkled and green. Oh, my Yoda. Yoda.
Full disclosure, this is my Lady White Peanuts favorite Weird Al song. This does not afford the song additional points in the tier list, but I am contractually obligated to disclose this information. Anyway, Yoda is an S++++ tier song. It's a trip, sing and perform it live. It's fantastic.
Yeah, thanks for linking that to me.
Thank goodness for licensing complications with the Star Wars people, right? Because
yeah,
we got
sure.
This incredible version of the song instead of the accordion and hand farts version he recorded in 1980 for the debut album.
That was recorded for Dr. Demento. He would have recorded a new one for if this was on the debut album, it probably would have been re-recorded.
He might have recorded it professionally. I mean, there's a Queen song on that album that he didn't bother with, so who knows for sure. Anyway, that version, the Dr. Demento version, is on medium rarities, and it's still good because it's Yoda, but it's definitely not this version.
So I have lots of notes for this song. If you'll allow me a little bit of indulgence here, one of my favorite lyrics, I'll be playing this part till I'm old and gray. Mm-hmm. And my comment was, I know I'm going to take some heat on this, that this is a similar shtick to Rocky 13, but Al did it so much better.
Also, no longer an anachronism as of Star Wars Episode 8.
He's just predicting the future.
Literally playing the part while he's old and gray.
Have you noticed that, like, Weird Al has done a parody song for the original trilogy 2 years after the fact, and then he did one for the prequel trilogy, and he just really hasn't felt the need to revisit Star Wars? You know? We're kind of done with that, aren't we? Isn't that weird?
I mean, Star Wars itself has become parody, so I think Weird Al's like, no, you guys are okay.
You guys are dealing with it just fine.
Another real fun thing, I don't know if you guys have like your own favorite actual just like musical flourish in this song, but I think 100% it has to be, he'll show you the Force. It's like that right there.
Like I said, this song is a real trip when performed live because it's got audience participation. It's a very easy song because the chorus is like endlessly repeatable and everybody's singing at that point. But he and his band transition into this bizarre 5 or 6 minute long chant sequence on stage.
Oh, absolutely. No notes. I got nothing on that. I was just sitting there dumbstruck the entire time going, oh, they really practice.
But Face acknowledges that is a thing. I have clicked.
I figure the origin of that is probably like them sitting in the tour bus just goofing off and seeing how far they could take it.
It's a Hey Jude.
It just, they just build on it more and more every subsequent tour. Where in S tier would you guys like me to place Yoda?
I'd like you to place it in A tier.
Before we rank it, there is one last bit. The music publisher said no. So Al went and tracked down Ray Davies of the Kinks, and Ray said, they never asked me, and then gave Al permission. And some of the notes I was researching said, therefore, he always asks the artist directly. I'm like, well, then what happened with Coolio? Still, thank you, Ray Davies.
Yeah, a discrepancy between artist permission and label permission is something that will be pertinent again on this album's potpourri song.
I think the only note I have specifically for how the song sounds is just I wish that it had a bit more of guitar sizzle. Like the original just has a real, and I don't know how else to describe it other than sizzling guitar. And this is lacking, which is why I'm only putting it in A.
This is a more of a fatter humbucker type of sound than close bridge Stratocaster type of sound, which I was listening through. I was like, man, I really like the guitar that's going on in this song because it's got a real move and beat and it's crunchy. And it's like, you can sit there and air guitar to this song.
You know what? Another note is this is a 15 years reach back for Al. Like this is the farthest back he's reached for a parody song yet. He'll go farther back. It will happen.
Well, that's only because he got delayed by,
It would have been more contemporary if he had put on his 1983 album, yes.
By still 10 years, 12 years, that's a ways back for him.
I mean, this song was out in 1980, so that was,
10 years.
So where in S tier would you like to place this song, Dan?
I mean, I want it to be S tier. I really do, just because this song is so groovy and catchy and bouncy, and it does withstand the test of time. Like, you can play this today and it's still relevant to Star Wars.
This song is better than anything Star Wars has put out since Star Wars.
God, you ain't kidding, boy.
I mean, the hot takes are here.
To be clear, I didn't like Star Wars when I first heard this song as a child. Like, I already didn't like Star Wars at 10 years old. Sounds like a high A for Yoda.
Yeah, Buttface is gonna sink it again.
I'm sorry, man.
George of the jungle, friend to you and me. Watch out for that tree.
Do you know, I'm going to go to bat for George of the Jungle a little bit.
I'm right there with you.
I was too young to have ever watched this cartoon, obviously, but clearly Al grew up watching it and wanted to pay homage to it. So when I hear this cover, like, I don't really hear him singing George of the Jungle. Instead, I imagine him singing the theme song to, like, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles or the Powerpuff Girls, and it makes me smile every time. So I'm happy with this song.
I wrote, instead of making a crappy cover / parody matched together, he just makes a great cover. And you know what makes this cover great? The real secret sauce? Because I was saving a piece of personnel. There's a specific personnel in this song, and it's Bill Scott, good old Bullwinkle / George of the Jungle himself, who does the
So that's actually George.
That is George of the Jungle.
They didn't just sample that from the cartoon or something. Nope, they brought him in. Oh.
Yep, it was one of the last things Bill Scott did before he died the next year.
What a fantastic homage.
The story behind this song, apparently, is that the record label wanted him to do a cover of something, so he decided to cover this. And I am glad that Al decided to do this and realized that the Brady Bunch was a mistake and said, you know what, I just like TV theme songs. I'm going to do a TV theme song. You know what, Al, good for you.
What were they expecting he was going to do?
Well,
when they asked him to do a cover. All right, Buttface, go ahead and bring us down.
Yeah, I'm most familiar with like just the Brendan Fraser movie. Surprised they made a Brendan Fraser George of the Jungle. I know this is news to you, Brick.
Yeah, I didn't know that this movie existed until you told me.
Did you know that they also have a 2007 animated revival of the show done by a Canadian animation company?
Yes, studio, and I have a fact about that.
Feel free to go, because I'm turning to you for history, because this song does nothing for me. I don't care.
This actually appeared on the Brendan Fraser's movie soundtrack album, along with a few other versions, but the version from that movie was done by the Presidents of the United States of America. Also an excellent cover, but that one, I think it goes on a little bit. Like, this is what I would call the authentic cover. The Presidents definitely add their own twist to it, which is nice, but like, if you wanted a definitive version of this song, this would have to be it.
I'm happy to put this in a B tier.
I actually put it in A tier. I wrote no
I
notes.
I have it in C tier because it's just I have no idea why this is on this album other than finding out that this is a love letter that Al wanted to make.
I would like to put this above One More Minute, but I don't think I could put it above like a Surgeon, which is a veritable classic.
Yeah. The one note I wrote for the song is, I do get it, but I also don't get it.
Dan, this song should be accompanying a commercial for a Genesis game, or at the very least, a Mattel toy tie-in cartoon.
It's interesting that you bring up Genesis games, Buttface. This could have been the accompanying song for Slime World.
Yeah, it should have been.
I think rhyming sewers with manicures is a stroke of genius.
It's inspired.
That is an A-tier rhyme.
No, this song slaps. I love this song. Dan, I know that you have like your intro for this one. Feel free to go off about this song, but I have nothing but good things to say.
I get what he's trying to do. It's just like in the last album, he had this thing where, sort of like with Nature Trail, he's trying to evoke those horror movies that we are so inundated with in the 80s and then the bad ones that preceded them. This is trying to do the sort of same vibe for 50s and 60s sci-fi movies.
Oh, but see, I have a love of schlocky sci-fi where I could care less about 80s horror.
I mean, schlocky horror, schlocky sci-fi, what's the difference?
One I love dearly.
Slime Creatures and Nature Trail, in my mind, are so similar, like scope and listenability, that the fact that neither of you like both songs is giving me a headache.
It's because this is an outer space kind of, it's like we found the theremin, guys. And
theremin is the theremin. Do you think Al just wanted to play around with his new vocoder? He got a new toy and he wanted to make this dumb sci-fi song. And he's like, I could bring in a theremin. Everyone likes it when a theremin's brought into a song. Literally everyone.
How high do you want to place this song?
I want to get on record that like I could listen to the reprise of Slime Creatures from Outer Space 17. No, make it 18 more times to be safe.
It feels like instead of that outro lasting for 18 repetitions, they could cut the song altogether and you can have 2 more parodies, right?
I know, but instead they cut the outro. You got the one song and it's pretty strong.
I think I could be talked into a low A for Slime Creatures. It's just a fun song to listen to.
I personally have it in S. I love this song.
I hate to be the one who sings this, but I just have it as a C.
Okay, well.
Like I said, I don't hate it, but it doesn't spark joy.
Looks like we're looking at a tall B then.
Yeah.
It's going to have to live next door to Dare to Be Stupid, either before or after, because we've got 2 people rawing it and 1 person flushing it, so. Before or after, Dan? I'll be the deciding voice here.
Before.
All girls just want to have lunch.
You know it's bad when the crunching food noises come through clearer than the echo snare. I do not care for the strange voice. I especially do not care for the eating food noises. And look, it's the return of the hand farts. I don't even particularly get what the joke on this is. Maybe it's just me, but like girls just wanting to have lunch. Like if you're wanting to have my partner just wants to eat all the time, that's a thing. But why specifically lunch? Does that rhyme particularly well with girls just want to have fun? This is up there with more mean-spirited Al songs that is just complaining about the women, am I right, fellas? Which is just not in Al's particular style.
So there's a few points about this song. The first is that the record label really wanted Al to do a parody of Girls Just Want to Have Fun, but he didn't want to do it. So instead of being an anchor parody, this is a protest parody. It is malicious compliance poured into a song, and you can feel the contempt that Al has for doing this. You know, this is basically a middle finger to his record company saying, oh yeah, you want a Cyndi Lauper parody? I'll give you Cyndi Lauper. Now, as far as I know, Weird Al himself does not have any problems with Cyndi Lauper. I mean, we've all been there, right? Somebody tells you to do something. Oh yeah, well, go to hell. I'm going to do whatever I want, and I'm going to show you why this is a bad idea.
It's too bad they let it get through the filter then.
I'm not excusing it. I'm just saying that's why it happened.
If it was a third party's job to then evaluate my work that I only did because of malicious compliance, I would not expect the fact that it was malicious compliance to reflect well on me.
I think it's the fact that the record executives couldn't pick up that this was malicious compliance, that it is an indictment of those executives who were dumb enough to try to force Al to do something when he's like, I'm not really feeling it.
Yeah, the concept makes no sense. The lyrics, they're not a good parody. They're not offering good commentary. The song just sucks.
Yeah, Al hates this song. Like, I think it is his least favorite parody that he's ever put on a record album.
It's easily his worst food parody song.
I'm not going to go up to F tier because at the end of the day, it is still a parody of Cyndi Lauper, and the music is really fun. The song's not unlistenable, but the floating right on the top of F tier, I think, is appropriate.
I have it as a D-, so yeah, I'm gonna... Dan, how are you feeling?
There are some interesting things in the music of the song. Like, they definitely play with some of the bits of the original if you compare them closely. Oh yeah, you can hear those interesting things, but the song is still bad. The character is unlikable. This is my note was serious incel energy here. The character in the song is basically complaining that, oh, these girls are always asking me out on dates and all they do is eat on these dates. I feel like I'm being taken advantage of.
You know, in my notes, I have usually Al's characters are more taking the piss out of themselves, and this is a character trying to take the piss out of someone else.
Yeah.
And I think that's the distinction.
It's a person parody like we had with Groovy Guy, but this is
right,
worse
but usually it's a person showing off something about like an aspect of themselves that is then being derided, whereas this is a caricature who is dumping on someone else.
Also, Al's voice here sounds like it wandered in off the debut album.
Yeah.
It's not welcome.
This is Al saying, oh, I hate this. I'm going to intentionally make this bad as protest. And I mean, as much as I appreciate the protest, it's still not a good song that people paid money for. And so I have to put it as like D.
Hey, Buttface. The whole time I was waiting for Dan to say what tier he wanted this in, I had my mouse cursor positioned over Al's face so it looked like it was picking his nose.
He's got a boogie.
Oh, God!
Yeah, every day I make the front page news. No time to pay my dues. I got a million pairs of shoes. This is the life.
Y'all know I love some big band jazz.
Jazz.
This song's right up my alley. I do love, though, that Al doesn't stay married to the genre for the whole song. Like, suddenly electric guitars or, like, record scratches will cut in during the instrumentals. That just makes the song, like, raises the comedic value of it. And the lyrics are so tight. He doesn't waste or stretch a single syllable in this whole song. Fantastic. The movie the song was made for, I don't remember being very good. But Buttface is the one who just watched it, so he would have to.
I literally just watched it not 12 hours ago, and I thought it was pretty okay.
You might have to say the
passable.
name of the movie for the benefit of our viewers.
It's Johnny Dangerously, and this was composed as the title track. It's the first thing you hear and see on screen. It's an okay movie. It's very stiffly acted, but it's got some real nuggets of gold in there.
So in my notes, I wrote checks in the mail energy.
I'm thinking that along with checks in the mail, this could be the start to a new trend, which also comes up later in Waffle King, which is like a guy that you just hate to love or love to hate. Like jerks you love to hate, you know?
Yeah. How do you know this song isn't about the Waffle King? He's just not being specific about how he made his money.
Well, and also checks in the mail might also be Waffle King.
It's the same guy.
It's the same guy.
Like, again,
It just
this
keeps
is,
looping back.
I love this song. So the spontaneous 80s guitar solo shred is not a reference to Back to the Future. That's a couple years off still, right?
The 1985, that comes out this year.
But he did this song for Johnny Dangerously, which was a couple years prior.
True. I wrote that if money can't buy happiness, I guess I'll have to rent it. Is just, that is an S tier lyric. That is such an Al way of looking at life. I love it. I'm like, yeah, that's a good point. You can't take it with you.
I have this as an easy A in my notes, but I'm fine putting this in S tier.
This song and Yoda were the two songs from this album that were on Weird Al's Greatest Hits Volume 2, which I had on CD. I did not own Volume 1. Here's what I want to know. Why were those songs not included in the Greatest Hits Volume 1? Were they not great enough, Al?
They only had so much room on the record, man. It's like they were doing what we're doing right now.
Right.
The thing that I want to point out comparatively is we have checks in the mail as an A tier across the board.
Oh, yeah.
Do we think that the lyrics in this are stronger, and is that enough to bump it up to S?
Oh, absolutely. It's like I said, he doesn't waste a syllable in this song. Every lyric is gold the whole way through.
I didn't go into this thinking S tier. I mean, I had it as an A. I'm not sure this can be S tier. I mean, I like it a lot, but it's one of those for me personally. It's really good, but
for me, what does bother me is Mr. the Glove. Like, I don't need the record scratch in here.
I also don't really care for, like, the guitar solo. I don't like the tone of the guitar. I don't know if that's Derringer or West. That's, I think, what keeps it out of S tier for me.
Well, yeah, but Dan, it's not a rock song. It's jazz, and the guitar only comes in for like one shred, and then it's gone.
Right, and the guitar is brought in as a joke. The record scratch is brought in as a joke.
Yeah, they're little
But
gags.
the song is strong enough without the jokes. I would have preferred it if it was played straight.
I just would have liked the guitar as I don't know, it just, the tone just doesn't fit the jazziness of it.
It's anachronistic.
You want this behind Yoda, I take it?
Yeah.
I did do jazz hands again, buttface, just so you know.
Oh yeah, always. You had to.
Oh, 83 channels of ecstasy. I love my cable TV. Yeah, I love my cable TV.
I hate this song.
Oh, good.
Oh, I hate the song so much. Can I tell you how many ways I hate the song? Oh, I hate it so many ways.
Do you hate it 27 ways?
Oh, perhaps till Sunday. I will start with the most rational reason to hate this song. Al is supposed to be parodying Hercules by Elton John. I don't know if any of you guys went and listened to the original songs while you were listening through this album.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I did for the song parodies, but Buttface has this listed as a style
This is not
parody.
well, we will get to that. But this
Yeah,
this is a parody of Hercules. But the problem is that Hercules was on Elton's fantastic, one of the best albums of all time, Honky Chateau.
Definitely one of the best album titles of all time.
It is a great album title, great music. Honky Cat. It's got Susie. It's got Rocket Man. I mean, Elton has changed his sound so many times through his career that it's hard to keep track. But Honky Chateau, throughout the album, has a very distinctive honky-tonk sound, as well as there's so much going on with it. And this song is not produced like Hercules from Honky Chateau. This is produced as if we were getting mid-80s Too Low for Zero Elton John, which is a completely different style of sound. I mean, I love I'm Still Standing. I love That's Why They Call It the Blues, but that stuff is not Honky Chateau. So to go and take this song and take something it is so incongruous. It is like you've made this abomination amongst God and men. God, it just makes me so.
And this whole rant, this was just point one on a long list.
I mean, I combined multiple points into
Dan,
this
I would
one
like to go to bed at some point tonight.
I mean, I see why they got Sonny Burke, because they needed a piano player who could actually hang with Elton, and he does a pretty good job. But, I mean, the saxophone solo sucks. The song is too long. It doesn't excite me.
If a song parody needs its status to be confirmed in a trivia section on a wiki, it is not a song parody.
Buttface, I'm just telling you, it is the song. Go listen to Hercules.
Oh, I listened to it after I looked at a wikis and was like, wait, this is a song parody? It barely measures.
I mean, the meter is there, the way the lyrics go with the music is there, but the actual production of the song is completely different. And that can be
which
good
is why
sometimes.
I'm saying it's bad. I'm saying it's bad.
But in here, it just does not land. It's like you've made neither fish nor fowl.
5 albums later, Al has a better watching TV song.
Yes, he does.
Like Dan, I think I am also compelled to share my notes in their entirety with you.
Please do. I want to hear them.
It's fine.
I love them. I want to hear the anger.
No, those were the notes. It's fine. The song's fine.
I noticed that Dan hasn't given a grade yet. In all of that, I still don't know where he sits this.
I can't put it in. I mean, I want to, out of just sheer spite and anger, I want to put it in F tier.
You can, if you want. If you
is
feel it in your
worse
heart.
than girls
Dan.
just want to have lunch?
It's not, well,
Then it's better than a D.
Buttface, where do you want this song?
I have it as a C. It's fine.
Yeah, it's fine.
That's fine.
The song is not fine. I give this D for dumb.
We definitely like it more than lunch,
Yes.
for sure.
I will begrudgingly give it that.
Oh, what's love got to do with it? What's love but a second-hand emotion? What's love got to do?
Now that is how you end an album. You should end albums with polka medleys. Those are great, energetic songs to end an album on. As a follow-up polka, I think it's trying to be a little bit more varied in its stylings. It's pulling from a lot more. It's doing a lot more with the songs, which I think it's also still sticking to that winning polka medley formula of trying to be experimental and creative with its source material. I just don't actually think it's much of an improvement over the original. There are higher peaks for polka medleys to get to.
I wrote not as good as polkas on 45.
Mm-hmm.
What brings a lot of the humor to the polka medleys for me is that Al has this baseline kind of obliviously charming vocal delivery. Like the person singing the lyrics doesn't actually know what they mean. And that's especially funny when he gets into songs like going into like where the delivery doesn't work for the song, like You Oughta Know or Feel Good Inc. But in this song, it's like he's trying a little too hard to be cute and wacky in his vocal delivery with every individual song. When usually, like Buttface observed, he just lets the style kind of meander off and explore different styles of polka. So I think I also agree this is a low tier polka song.
Which means it's in lower A, right?
Right.
It's still great.
It's interesting you bring up the thing with the voice, because one of my notes was the reflexes thing. They were doing what I call the SpongeBob vibrato.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Or if you've ever listened to Tom Kenny talk about how he does that SpongeBob, that like he gives the see, I can do it because I know how to do it because I listened to Tom Kenny explain how to do it.
Fantastic.
Brick, you wanted to pick out one of these that could be their own song parody.
Yeah, there's a song in every polka that you want to see as a full-blown parody.
Yeah, for me, that one is above and beyond the Footloose. I love the lounge singer version of it, and I also love the Buck Wild in a Barn version that they get crammed together. It is the best part of this polka medley.
I mean, he would just write a song called Fruit Loops, right?
Probably.
Yeah. What about you, Dan?
He stole what I was going to say.
I was going to go with Sharp Dressed Man.
Yeah, I think in terms of making like an actual parody on riffing on ZZ Top, and I'm surprised that as big as ZZ Top was, that he didn't manage to do something. Maybe Billy and Dusty and Frank, they've shown that they can have fun at their own expense. They're on King of the Hill.
Dan,
I think
actually
I wrote
on the
Owner of a
spreadsheet,
Lonely
yeah.
Heart.
That's what I have you here, is Owner of a Lonely Heart.
Yeah, because Owner of a Lonely Heart, I mean, I'm a sucker for Yes, in all of their eras. And the fact that they went and got the Fairlight sounds, that bow, 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 and worked it into the medley. Like, oh yeah, it sounds really natural. One thing that I thought was another mark against this medley was that the slow and jaunty "We're Not Gonna Take It." You did the same thing with Hot Blooded in the last album, guys. It's the same bit.
Are you happy with a low A tier for Hooked on Polkas?
I gave it a B+.
Now that means it's going to land ahead of Dare to Be Stupid in the B tier. Can you live with that, Dan?
Yeah.
Maybe Al should do a polka medley of all his originals.
Oh, I would love that. I would love that so much.
You guys are going to rank the album now. This is when I just usually take a bathroom break.
Man, I got to look over my notes for this album. Like, what do I have it all sitting at? It is all over the place for me. It is scattershot. I want to say this album is a C.
Not as good as Weird Al in 3D. Not as good.
Weird Al in 3D, I agree, Dan, is like it's more cohesive. It's, as I went on a long rant last time, it's actually got something to say. It's a concept album. And this is just kind of piecemeal all over the place. It's more in line with the first album, Weird Al. It reaches higher highs.
I had it as a B- because of Dare to Be Stupid and the impact that Like a Surgeon had. Like, the anchor is very good. Dare to Be Stupid is some of the best material Al's ever done. I mean, Yoda, absolutely just, but I can't give Yoda to this album because Yoda, even though the recording for this album is better, Yoda was not made for this album.
It's an outlier brought in to raise the bar. Unfortunately, that bar was already set low.
It's a ringer.
It is a ringer. But I mean, and I like the George of the Jungle, and I think the polka is good. I mean, I know you guys are higher on Slime Creatures from Outer Space, which Girls Just Want to Have Lunch. That is just straight up bad. I get why it's bad, and I understand the spirit of protest, but
would you say the longer time in the oven for this album was probably allowed for more studio meddling and thus more mixed response?
The thing is that, like, Al is going to be releasing an album a year he had in 3D in 84. He had this in 85. He has Polka Party in 86. And, you know, this is not the reinventive Al that we're going to see later in his career, but the signs on here where Polka Party is going to be bad, you can see the signs of Polka Party's badness in this album.
Don't listen to him, viewers. Polka Party is not going to be bad.
There's some great stuff on Polka Party, and
there's some great
not.
stuff on this too. But
so, what's the appropriate response? Okay, you're a parody artist. Your label says you have to do a parody of this song for whatever their reasons are. In this case, it's because Cyndi Lauper was one of the hottest artists of the 80s, I'm sure. But whatever the reasons, Al chose to protest. Other options, like he could have put his foot down and just said no and been in breach of contract, or he could have tried harder and made a better song.
He would have done that later in his career. I think if this was, Al isn't even, 25 when he records this album?
Yeah.
So don't remind me how young he was.
I know it makes all of us hurt, trust me, but your instinct is to give the man the finger. But I think if he was going to do this song again, just like it was a lesson he had to learn, just like he had to learn with It's All Billy Joel to me.
Well, another example of studio meddling in his career was the number of studio albums contractually he had to put out. So a later form of protest was to name his album Mandatory Fun. So he kind of rolled with it instead of try to put the brakes on it. So he did learn the lesson.
That's a great album.
But that's the wisdom that comes with age.
Yeah. I thought for Potpourri, it might be instructive because we're going through like Al archaeology in the 80s. Like we're listening to all of his really old stuff. Maybe it would be instructive to hear something from a more modern Al Yankovic catalog, something that's merely 15 years old instead of 35 years old. And we can keep this train rolling on executive meddling because there's quite a lot in the song's story.
And you smell repulsive too. What a bummer being you.
I'm going to coin a phrase at you guys right now. The elevated parody. This is when a song is pleasantly listenable or like even like a total banger, but the lyrics are just vapid and pointless, like a lot of like teenage romance songs. So what Al does is he takes the music and replaces the lyrics, and by doing that, he's doing the world a solid, right? Like he's elevating the craft a little bit. This isn't Al's earliest example of an elevated parody. Like this would have gone on Straight Out of Linwood if he was able to publish it. But I definitely think this is an elevated parody. Maybe like a weak example of one. Because I don't have any use for the original version of this song, You're Beautiful, but Al's version is funny. So, elevated parody.
I see your point, but let me raise you this. How do you feel about it being just a mean-spirited song?
I don't like the mean-spirited songs that are specifically like directed at somebody when he's just making fun of an artist. But in this song, Al's just singing about a generically pitiful guy. It's not directed at any person in particular, so it doesn't sound that klaxon for me.
It's spray and pray, not necessarily a target.
Right.
So
Okay.
we could retroactively apply that category to I Lost on Jeopardy.
I think the original version of that song, like the lyrics have some nutrients, but it's subjective. Like I could like soft agree with that. There is one song in particular in a couple of albums that I think is the example of the elevated parody. And then Al does it a lot more throughout the career. But yeah, I'm okay with this song. So this was going to be, I'm not sure if it was going to be pitched as like the anchor parody for Straight Outta Linwood, but this was a big song at the time, and Al did a parody of it. And as we've observed earlier in this video, Al legally doesn't have to get permission from anyone to write a parody. Fair use is a beautiful thing, but he does like to get permission from the artist and their record label in order to maintain relationships in his industry. This is a weird case where the artist said, yes, go ahead and do it, and the record label said, no, shut it down, which apparently doesn't happen that often. Usually it's the other way around, because the record label always wants to make more money, and Al's parodies are going to sell more of their albums. So the fix he was in was he wasn't able to sell the song, so he just put it out for free, and then the anchor song for that album, instead of being this, ended up being White and Nerdy. And the video for White and Nerdy, Al takes a cheap shot, but an earned one, at Atlantic Records, who killed this song.
And to be fair, I think if this had managed to make it on the album, I mean, White and Nerdy was a real big deal for Al. Like, Straight Outta Linwood was his most successful album that he had had in a very long time. I still think even if this was on the album, White and Nerdy would still be the better song.
This is fine for being like a B song. It's
a
better
B.
than a lot of stuff, but
I like it a lot, but it's a B.
I'm happy to put this just above George of the Jungle in B tier. This is a listenable B song.
yeah, I can see that. I would be remiss if I don't at least have this on tape. You like Weird Al Yankovic? Their undisputed masterpiece is I Want a New Duck, a song so catchy, most people probably don't listen to the lyrics, but they should, because it's not just about the disposability of creature companionship, it's also a personal statement about novelty acts, like the band themselves. Hey, Dan! Chunk!
Yeah, I could probably use like 10 seconds of that.
Does Dan get the joke?
No.
I'm just very
Does
scared.
Brick get the joke? Do you guys not get the joke?
No idea what
You
you're
said,
doing.
hey, Dan, ka-chunk.
2 seconds here, hold on.
This is a life.
Must be nice being right all the time.
It really, really is. It's a lot of fun.